So I think I finally found the word that describes the problem or the issue that I have, and that word is niche. I feel like that's really what I'm getting at. I want to find my niche. Uh, you know, I'm kind of in a transition period. I like what I'm doing, but I'm kind of in a transition period, and really just waiting for better or worse. But I think what I've been getting at the past couple of days is I want to find a niche. You know, that that concept is really a fascinating concept. Just the idea of there being a niche, because you know when you're younger, I mean, yeah, you got hobbies and stuff, but you want to be so open and learn everything. You know, you know, um, but you kind of end up falling in line. I looked up. I went on the AI and I typed in niche just to get like a real concise definition. And the first image that showed up was an ant carrying a leaf, and the definition was essentially finding a role that suits you, basically. Finding a role that suits you, and that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my niche. Was Madden a niche? Well, it wasn't really. I feel like the idea of a niche is you take a hobby and then you socialize it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. I'm not saying you can't have private hobbies, but what I'm saying is that you know it's not really healthy to be completely antisocial. There's a spectrum. I'm not trying to get into a personality argument. All I'm trying to say is that concept of niche is a really fascinating concept, especially when you consume a lot of internet content. Because if you try to have a broad spectrum of internet, trying to understand internet content, you really can't. You really can't. But the idea of a niche, really, that concept is a genius concept. You know, it's kind of like going to the grocery store or different food items. Like the idea of a content being a niche. Food's a bad example because that's a bad example. But the niche idea is a really fascinating concept to just like sit and think about. Like, okay, so there's different types of content. You got, cooking content, chess content, you know, counseling content, um, uh, you know, let's just, you just have all different types of content. If you, uh, so I feel like the idea of niche is a very useful concept, not only because, well, I guess I mean, you can't take content and not specialize it. You know what I'm saying? There's an appeal to a certain type of content, and you can't necessarily put other forms of content with it and have it synthesize. So the idea of the niche is a really fascinating concept. Um, really about everything, like especially about like what you enjoy. Like the retro game niche. You know, uh, it's just kind of interesting the concept of niche. I feel like that's a good direction to go, to focus on a niche. To be like, okay, don't be a jack of all trades, that type of thing. Uh, because it's amazing. You're not really comparing when I'm consuming content. I'm not comparing content I like to other content I like. There's no comparison. There's no value judgment. Now, maybe I do like some content more than others, but I still like it, so it's a net positive to me to watch it. Maybe on the mood for cooking, or maybe on the mood for, uh, you know, Twitch streamer, whatever. Like I'm getting a value from watching multiple types of content because they're satisfying a different niche that I enjoy. So I feel like that's really the way to go about it, to find a niche that you really like, that, like I used to love to, I don't really want to create this type of content, but I used to love to watch this type of content. The eating in your car videos, like I'm in my car right now. Eating in your car videos. I used to love those, certain people, mainly the Hodge twins. I used to love to watch the Hodge twins eat. Those are my favorite videos. They're probably the only one. Oh, of course. How could I forget? Report of the week. I used to love just watching them eat in their cars. I thought that was so cool to be like, this guy has got 600,000 subs, and he's in a Popeyes parking lot in his car with 600,000 subs. He really captured that niche. He's got his own, he's got his own personality, his own character, and he's really captured his niche, his market. And so the idea of the niche is really useful to keep in mind. I really like that concept, the niche concept, because it just keeps you from overexpanding, and it keeps you from, it just keeps you from overexpanding. Find what you do well and just keep doing it. And if you branch out, you need to find something that, well, first of all, you need to have something that's a niche to begin with. Like, you need to have your niche. You need to figure out what it is and stick with it and just do it. And that's probably the hardest step, is finding what it is, because you can try a lot of different hobbies. Speaking from experience, I tried all kinds of hobbies and they just don't stick. They're not like Madden, and they're not like Gary's Mod Murder. They don't stick. So it's hard for me to find things that stick, the niche that I'm looking for. And I feel like maybe vlogging could be it. Vlogging is a really broad concept, but, you can, over time I'll learn how to narrow it down and whittle it down, I guess. But this idea of there being a niche is a really fascinating concept. Finding your niche, finding what you're good at and what you like. That's a really interesting concept, because it's just a really helpful concept, because it just keeps you from overexpanding. It's so easy to overexpand, and to, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So, like with me in the Gary's Mod, I liked it. I wanted to imitate it, but I want to find my niche. Probably, I want to find my YouTube niche. I don't know what it is exactly, but I want to find it. Something where every day I wake up, I'm like, this is a really good idea. This is a really good video. This is a really good way to spend my time. I want another Gary's Mod and another Madden. I want another, here we go. I'm doing this. I like this. I love this. I don't want to do anything else but this. My time. It just feels like time freezes. I could do it forever. So I need to find my vlogging niche. I don't want it to be food. I don't want to do food reviews. I don't want to. That's just. I tried once, and it just was not me. It just wasn't me. I was like, I don't want to talk about eating McDonald's. I don't want to do that. So. Now, will I watch somebody doing it? Of course. If they're really passionate about it, of course I'm going to watch that. Are you kidding me? The essence of that passion is what we watch for. It's not even about the content itself necessarily. It kind of is, but it's about the content plus how the person presents the content, how they feel about the content. Like Report of the Week, I love watching him eat food. I love watching him eat food. He does it in a different way, but that's just what he likes. You know what I mean? It'd be interesting. He needs to start getting invited to podcasts. Why is Report of the Week not getting invited to podcasts? We need to know. We need to know a lot. I know he loves his suits. I love his suits. He's a fascinating man. I love Report of the Week. I love him. He's been one of my favorite YouTubers for a long time. I love Report of the Week. But it would be nice to pick his brain and be like, okay, so the vlogging thing and the food, like how did you choose food as your, it'd be just nice to hear his essence explain how he chose what he chose, because it's a perfect fit for him. He's perfect for it. He's just perfect for it. That's what I'm saying. Everybody needs to have that in their life, that report of the week food review type of niche. Everyone needs that type of niche where it's just a perfect fit. You're like, man. Now, I'm not saying he can't, do other things, but he's just found something so perfect for him that you don't want him to do anything else, in a way. It's like, if you specialize in a certain type of food and you sell another type of food, it's not always easy to transition, type of thing. I'm not saying it's impossible, but he's just found a really good niche. He's found a really good niche. And that's what I'm looking for. I want to find my own niche. I don't know what that is yet, but I want to find it, because you just want to find a way to spend your time, your free time. Now spend it in, you just want to find a way to spend your free time that's not harmful or killing you or something. There's a lot of vices out there that are just not healthy. Don't ask me about that. But there's just a lot of vices out there that just kill you. And it's like, well, what's the alternative? What's the alternative to this? Because there's pleasure in this, even though there's harm in this. So am I going to go back and forth between pleasure and harm my whole life until it kills me? Or am I just going to be like, is there anything like better? Is there anything just maybe like a step above that's a little bit healthier, that still provides me satisfaction and enjoyment, that doesn't kill me? I feel like that's part of the problem too. Finding a hobby that's just not just detrimental to your health. It shouldn't be that hard to find something. But the problem is that there's pleasure in the harmful hobby. The harm comes later. That's the hard part. The pleasure part is the part that's like, why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't I do this? And you can rationalize it in a lot of different ways. I'm not even necessarily sure it's rationalizing. I feel like there's some truth to it. It's like you only live once. So, there's the idea that I'm not convinced that you only live once, so therefore it's okay to smoke. I'm not necessarily convinced that's a bad idea. Now, you could argue the quality of life. On the other hand, it's like, okay, but if you're doing something as a cope, like eating or whatever, drugs, you're doing it because the alternative sucked. Whatever you were doing before, the drugs filled the void, or the food, or whatever your vice is. That fills the void of your crappy life. It's pleasure, even though there's pain in it, because there's nothing else to look forward to. So I really feel like it'd be interesting to listen to people who, maybe got out of drugs or whatever their vice was, and then what are you doing now? That's the part I'm interested in. What are you doing now that is very productive to your mental health, your happiness, your enjoyment? What did you replace that with? I might need to go down that rabbit hole and just be like, so you had this vice that took over your life. Now what are you doing that fills that void, that keeps you from going down the easy play, like food? Food's a perfect example. You get the endorphins, just munch all day. You can just be huge. And then you have problems. And it's like, well, I know why you eat. It's easy. I can do the same thing. I'm not saying I don't, but it's easy to just get that high. Man, this is a really crappy day. If I go get like 4 cheeseburgers, I'll be happy. So what I'm saying is, how do you get that feeling of that euphoria without the drawbacks? I mean, an extreme example is hard drugs. The euphoria is what hooks people in. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter how, you've got the euphoria and you've got the crash. Well, if you're already kind of low, you want the euphoria. You want to try the euphoria. It makes sense. You're looking for euphoria. You're looking for something that makes you feel good. So it makes sense. Food, drugs, it makes sense why people go down that road, especially if you just don't have anything to look forward to. If you just don't have anything that makes you want to get up in the morning. It's like wake up and get your high, and there you go, and then do the same thing, chasing the high. It makes sense why people do that, because if you just quit cold turkey, what are you replacing that with? What are you replacing? Now once you get to the bottom, then it's easier, right? But the reason people start makes sense. It's like, well, I'm trying to fill a void. I'm trying to find something that satisfies me, something that makes me happy. And why not? There's euphoria in these drugs, So the euphoria is a strong word, but that's kind of what you're looking for. That's kind of what everybody's looking for. The satisfaction, the contentment. I feel like everybody's looking for contentment. So I'm just trying to find my new contentment, because vices, they take their toll. There's pleasure in it. There's pleasure in it. There's euphoria in it, and that's what you're chasing. You're always chasing the euphoria, even though the consequences start adding up. You're like, oh boy, that's adding up. But what do you replace with the euphoria that you experience from the vice? That's the issue. What do you replace it with? And I feel like the niche concept is kind of the productive aspect of that. I'm trying to I guess I'm comparing euphoria to a niche, but I think it's similar. With a niche, you're content, you're satisfied. You might not be on a high, but you're very happy. You're content. I feel like that's what I need to transition to, from the euphoria and the crash to just a niche, static. Every day, I'm not sick of this. I don't need to experience the euphoria, but the thing about the euphoria is it's there every day. Okay, it's there every day. Like a crash takes time, but the euphoria is there every day. So it's almost impossible to say no to that euphoria, especially if you don't have anything to replace it with. If you don't have anything to replace it with, that's when you're like, why wouldn't I just go do this again? What's the downside? Well, they add up over time. Sometimes it can happen quick. But the euphoria, when you take a vice, when you're trying to get rid of a vice, what do you replace the euphoria with? And I feel like the niche is what you have to replace it with. The productive niche. The thing that makes you wake up and just do it. Like a good passionate musician. It always seems like like a good passionate musician. Like, man, I'm just, something that just you wake up and that's what you're willing to practice. Like that's something you're willing to improve at. That's what you want. I feel like to replace the euphoria state of whatever your vice is, whatever makes you high or euphoric. I feel like you need to replace that, or I'm speaking to myself. You want to replace that with something that's difficult but fulfilling and satisfying. Something challenging. Something that's challenging that is also just kind of brings you peace and contentment. Like working out or something. I mean, working out has other benefits too, but Some people, they're really passionate about working out. Other people are just kind of do it to do it. But you want to find something that you're like, yeah, I love this. It's not like I can't wait to do this. If I can't do this right now, I'm chomping at the bit to do it as soon as possible. And it needs to be something that is not like the Vice, because the Vice is the same way. The Vice is, I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to get home to do this. I can't wait to do this with all my free time. I can't wait to do this constantly, because there's a high in it. There's a euphoria in it. And the downside doesn't come until later. So how do you find something to replace that euphoria without the crash? And I feel like that's what the role of the niche is. The niche, to me, is basically like a replacement, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. For myself, most certainly. I want a niche that is a replacement for the Vice, chasing the euphoria and experiencing the crash. Because the euphoria is always there until you die, until it starts to kill you. When it starts to kill you, that's when the euphoria is gone. So I want to find something that is, I want to find a niche that's just, it's like, yep, I can do this every single day. Like Madden, like Garry's Mod, every single day. Madden there's no hangover with Madden. You know what I'm saying? There was no negative side effects to Madden. There was no negative side effects to Garry's Mod. It was just every day I'm doing this, I'm getting better, and there's no downside to it. So that's what I want. I want a niche that there's no downside to. That, okay, how much euphoria is in the niche? That's the hard part, because the euphoria is what you want. You want the high. You want the experience of just being euphoric all the time, and then cumulatively the crash comes. So I don't feel like there's a crash with niches. It's not a crash. You can have like a smooth transition between niches. It's like, I've done this for a long time and now we're smoothing over into something else. There's not necessarily a drastic crash the way that there is with a Vice. So I really feel like the concept of niche is genius in so many different ways. Just the whole concept of niche. I mean, I feel like you could almost societally just branch out that concept and be like, that is genius in so many different ways. Economically, interpersonally, just hobbies. And that concept is a really helpful concept. So I want to find a way to take the concept of niche and find out what it is for me, maybe vlogging, and just find a way to replace my vices with it. I want to replace my vices with the niche. The euphoria is hard to let go. So I want to find a niche, because I feel like that's probably the easiest way to not chase the euphoria. If you love your job and you're having a great day at work and you love what you do, you're not going to come home and be like, oh man, I had a terrible day at work, I need to drink. You know what I mean? You're just not going to do that. I mean, you might be like, okay, I had a good time and I might drink a little, but it's not a cope, for a crappy job and a crappy life. It's not a cope. It's not something you're filling the void with, because there's no void to fill to begin with. The niche eliminates the void. A good niche eliminates the void, because vices love a void. So a good niche seems to be a very effective way to eliminate the void. So how do you find your niche? That's the difficult part, because it's easy to just be surrounded by hobbies and things and you don't really care that much. So how do you find something that you really, really, really love and care about and are passionate about? That's where I'm at right now. How do I find my niche where I'm waking up every day and I'm passionate about it and I love it? I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to wake up. The niche is the best way to get rid of a vice, in my opinion, just from my experience. But the problem is, if you had the niche to begin with, you wouldn't be you wouldn't have a void to begin with to fill with your vice. That's the hard part. The niche is something you have to go kind of find and also have it dropped in your lap at the same time. It's like it's hard to find a good niche. It's hard to find a good niche. So I guess I'll keep everybody updated because I'm still looking for my niche. I really want a good niche. I'm almost tempted to just write that down on like a whiteboard and put it on my fridge and just that word niche, like every day. What is my niche that I'm working at today? Because otherwise everything just gets real broad and you don't get anything done. And then vices are like right there. It's like you go from vice to just blech, unproductivity, vice, unproductivity, vice, unproductivity. But a good niche, keeps you productive and it just boosts your mental health. Madden was great. It wasn't necessarily a niche, but I'm just saying. I want to find a niche just for my own mental health, my own personal self-satisfaction. And I don't know what that is yet, but I'm going to just try to keep the concept of the niche in mind, because it just keeps me from over expanding into areas that are not going to be fruitful for me. Like I don't really care about this. Like it's just, I'm not digging it. I'm not feeling it. It's not me. So what is me? That's the part I'm looking at. What and where is my niche? And that will definitely help me with my vices. So if you're struggling with a vice, try to find a niche instead. The verbs are really helpful. Vice is toxic. Niche is like a cog in the machine. Like, yep, this is working perfectly. Yep. Just rhythm, perfect. Yep, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help this machine. Yep. That's what a niche is, and that's what you want to do. You want to find a niche that just, yep, here's what I'm supposed to do today, and it's working. It's working. So I guess that's one of my latest goals is just finding a good niche. Once I get my other areas of my life straightened out, because I'm in a transition period, once I get them settled, it's time to really focus on the concept of niche and figure out what it is for me, because I love copying people. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I copied sea nanners for a long time. So I'm looking for my latest niche, or maybe my first niche, but I'm really going to keep that concept in mind. What's my niche that I'm living for, that I'm working for today, that I'm being productive today, fulfilled today, satisfied today? What is it? That's what I need to find out for myself.